So the 17 to 30-ish gigabyte update, depending on your platform, for Modern Warfare 2 to kick off Season 4 dropped earlier today, bringing with it a host of new content, gameplay changes, and more. So today we're breaking down all of what changed of importance that you should know about and some key factors that are different from today's game versus, say, yesterday's game. Now, that said, as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What do you think of these changes? Like the weapon tuning, the health changes in Warzone, the new maps, whatever the case, drop it down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you in the community as we get through Season 4's launch here and into other content upcoming with like XDefiant's second beta next week. I'd love to have you if you're interested in any of that. And finally, check out G Fuel. Code Espresso gets you 20% off your order all the time. But for the month of June, things like starter kits, the tubs of hype sauce, hibiscus tea, and MS Melon and more are all 30% off, but more on that a little later. For now, let's jump into the update. So I don't want to take too much time to focus on the stuff we've already talked about, things like the multiplayer maps of Kunstenar District, Showdown, Marsh, Akdar Village, Mercado, and Penthouse. We've talked about things like the new weapons of the Tempest Razorback, ISO 45, and Tonfa. We've talked about the map of Vondel, the corresponding event of the assault on Vondel, all that kind of stuff. We've tackled a lot of the big stuff here the last couple of days, so let's just jump into the nitty-gritty here, the technical and fundamental changes. Firstly, I want to start out with weapon tuning. Let's start here because one thing that there is to note is that there is weapon tuning that applies to Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer across the board, absolutely, but a lot of these sort of air quote main focal points will come down to things revolving around armor damage, and as such, what's been replaced in the patch notes as Warzone only to make it easier to follow, this being something to directly combat or balance the new 50 HP increase to the mode, so we'll see all that tied together. Starting out with a weapon that has been absolutely the main meta and the sort of air quote problem of Warzone is the Cronin Squall. This is actually the first weapon here that we can touch on, and hilarious that we just talked about how there's Warzone only and multiplayer changes where there's a differentiation. The Cronin Squall doesn't have any adjustments in MP. This all is in Warzone only. Now, for the full auto version of it, it increased the bullets to kill by 2, a semi-significant nerf to it there. The maximum damage was surprisingly increased, and the minimum damage was added as a base value. The semi-auto mode, though, where a lot of people are using it to previously 3-tap players, that was something that, for whatever reason, it added more damage to the weapon itself in semi-auto versus full auto, but it increased the bullets to kill by 1, so instead of now 3, it will take 4 shots to kill. Those all having to be headshots. Of course, if you don't hit headshots, it will take more than 4 bullets, but the maximum damage was then decreased, probably to bring it in line with the full auto version, and the minimum damage was increased as well. We saw some adjustments to the shotguns where the Bryson 800 saw a minimum damage decrease for Warzone only, but then across the board we had a head multiplier, neck multiplier, upper torso multiplier, arm multiplier, and leg multipliers all increased. The Bryson 890 had the exact same adjustments here made to it, though slightly differing, of course, just because the values for the weapons are slightly different. The Expedite 12 had a minimum damage added as well as leg multiplier increased. The KV Broadside had a mid damage decrease, though while that on paper sounds like it's the only thing that was adjusted to the weapon, it's true to the base, but the KV Broadside had the 12 gauge Dragon's Breath close range damage increased slightly. Not entirely sure what that one's about, but we also saw the Lockwood 300 have a minimum damage decrease, but then additionally those head, neck, upper torso, arm, and leg multipliers increased, as well as then an increase to the hip to ADS spread transition speed, mid damage ranges increased, and that mid damage decreased slightly to round out the shotgun play and adjustments here with this. The final weapon that was adjusted fundamentally was the Fennec 45, where it decreased the bullets to kill by 1, which isn't really substantial given the fire rate of the Fennec, so it might be something that players will try and use this again. I don't foresee this coming back into the main meta of Warzone 2.0 just yet, but that's something we'll see in time if that does actually happen. The FTAC Siege had an adjustment, well, where you can have akimbo FTAC Sieges now, so that's something that is unlocked by 25 hipfire operator kills with the FTAC Siege. If Shipment or another small map is in play, that's an easy challenge here for that, but I mean, whew, that's gonna be an interesting one to go up against. Dual 72 round FTAC Sieges, if that's something that we end up seeing. But anyways, the Cast-Off 74U had a new barrel introduced, the KSTV-17 barrel, which is going to replace the 545 Tracer at level 9. So this will be something that if you ended up already getting past level 9 in your weapon progression, which I'm sure most of you have by now at this point, 8 months into the game's life cycle, but if you have, it will be something that's already retroactively earned. You don't have to do anything to unlock it. Beyond that, we ended up seeing some general adjustments adjustments here to shotguns and melees, where pellets for shotguns now use damage priority. So that means if 4 pellets hit a target, the highest damage among those pellets will be used. And the melees saw adjustments where the fist lunge range was decreased, the gun butt lunge, say that 5 times fast, range was decreased, and that damage for Warzone only was also decreased. Beyond that, we saw some bug fixes from weapons, but that was about it in regards to the weapon adjustments. Movement for gameplay, well, it's not exactly all that you may be hoping it is here for this. What we have in Modern Warfare 2 is by design. I do not expect them to change anything really in this game. Maybe Sledgehammer changes it with Modern Warfare 3, but the parachute movement, we saw weapon quick raise is now always used when cutting your parachute or landing for improved responsiveness on landing. Fingers crossed that actually is something that speeds up the landing process, because I mean, if you get caught with your chute close to the ground and you can't just take that like fall damage from jumping out of the sky, you're kind of screwed if you have an incoming gunfight for it. So that's something we ended up seeing. Perks, we saw adjustments to Bomb Squad now being scaled with explosive damage and clamps to maximum damage, unless the damage was a direct impact, so a little bit more resistance there to that. Field upgrades, we saw some bug fixes. Audio, we saw an adjustment for the war tracks. The UI and UX had some adjustments here where there's multiple attacker notifications now at this point. You might have noticed this in our Vondel early gameplay yesterday, but it'll showcase if you're taking fire from 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or even more players at any single point in time. It was something that I kind of noticed when I went down in Warzone, so it really wasn't too much of a help other than realizing like, oh, I got shot by somebody else. Maybe I can call out to my teammate that there's somebody that I didn't see. That's about it. It doesn't give you any sort of real-time indication that, oh, I'm not down yet, but there's 2 people that I gotta kind of finesse to get around. Beyond that, a handful of other bug fixes and slight UI adjustments as well. We saw some general tuning for multiplayer overall, where there's spawn adjustments for Greenberg Hotel, Black Gold, Exhibit, and Expo. We saw Giant Infected have some UAV adjustments where the sweeps changed in duration. We saw some bug fixes overall for that. We saw ranked refreshes for both Warzone and MP as well. But jumping over into Warzone a little bit, of course, we do know we have Vondel, a brand new map here at that, brand new POIs, but there's a lot more that changed beyond that. Firstly, in regards to Al Mazrah, we actually saw our first sort of like major map change here at this. We ended up seeing that the sandstorm has subsided, but in its wake, it's left a bunch of sand dunes all around the city area where that was something that was kind of just brewing. So you now have better ways to traverse the verticality of it, essentially, where you have sand dunes leading up the TV tower, the embassy, and high rise. So that'll be something that the dunes can maybe alter the gameplay experience there with that. Coming in season, they detailed was Lockdown. We'll touch on that a little later on down the line whenever we're closer to it. But in regards to overall gameplay adjustments, of course, player health being that perhaps biggest change out of this Season 4 update. The health has been increased to base 150 up from 100. So with plates, 300 HP total. Now, to kind of combat that, the regen delay has been increased to 7 seconds up from 5. So that is 2 extra seconds, which can be life or death in regards to getting your health back and staying alive in a battle royale match. Do note this is also there for core gameplay experiences in regular pubs, DMZ, as well as then ranked play. There are some quality of life adjustments to armor plates, armor boxes, and munitions boxes, which are actually pretty cool, to be honest with you. Armor plates, this is the one that I'm like maybe up in the air on, but players will automatically pick up 9 armor plates. So previously you could end up going over and picking up any number of armor plates until your entire inventory was full, which if you have 5 different slots in your backpack completely open, you have the base 3 that you can end up carrying. Well, then of course that's 18 plates you can end up carrying. But now this is something that kind of allows you to prioritize some inventory management where you're not filling that up entirely. You can then pick up an extra streak or something without having to really worry about going into your inventory and dropping it out, because you'll pick up the base 3 that you end up having on your person and then 2 extra full stacks in your backpack beyond that for 9 total. Anything else you can still end up taking. So if you want to take a full 18 of plates, you can. You're just going to have to interact with to start a new stack after that base 9 is already filled out. The armor box, again, kind of in the same vein, is something that players will receive a fixed number of 6 armor plates regardless of how many are in their inventory already. And then the munitions box will do something in the same vein where it's going to allow a fixed stack of weapon ammo from the munitions box, not adding extra to the lethal or tactical, but it'll add, say, 210 AR ammo. So if you end up having 60 extra rounds, you'll end up having 60 extra rounds in your inventory on top of the topped off 210 already on hand for your weapon. The ways that vehicles are fueled, or now actually being able to have gas stolen out of them, has been changed, where gas cans will now drain a percentage of the total gas while refueling a vehicle. You can now siphon gas out of a vehicle using a gas can, and now rather than catching fire when out of fuel, the heavy chopper just simply drops out of the air. A bit more more realistic on that one. For Warzone, we're going to see the rejoin feature introduced here in a beta state where players will be able to join back in if their client crashes on the device, but they have upwards of 4 minutes to do so. Players have to have at least one squad member remaining alive, so that doesn't apply to solos, and there must be at least 5 squads remaining in the match for that to end up being something you can rejoin back into. Now, this is something that honestly is a really nice feature for like ranked play or something like that, or just regular pubs in general, but truth be told, I'd love to see this elsewhere as well. So like things like the Raid and Spec Ops, that was something that last season with the Season 3 Reloaded update, there was a ton of crashes up front that myself and my squad ended up experiencing, where it took us probably double the time to get all the rewards and all the Easter eggs done as opposed to what it should have. So having that rejoin feature, it was there, but it just didn't actually interact properly. Having this now hopefully carry over would be huge. We also see additional adjustments for Warzone as the Gulag kill cam, pre-match audio, lobby, and exfil sequences have been adjusted now. Vondel in particular is the preview for a few different gameplay systems like Dynamic Fog, the TAV vehicle, the high stakes public event, which is something that will allow players to end up being able to get XP out of supply crates and use that for the rest of the match they're in, the reinforcement flare, and the favorite supply boxes. All of that is starting in Vondel, but then it's going to be making its way over to Ashika Island as well as Al Mazrah in the future. And then we saw some general adjustments here to quality of life things like the munitions boxes and armor boxes being increased in price, backpack inventories being adjusted, marker smoke effects for loadout drops, deployable buy stations, and smoke grenades all being more so apparent whenever you end up seeing them from afar. Adjustments to the bounty contract and most wanted contracts. The data heist public event is something that is being adjusted as well. The gas circle finale behavior is going to change the number of moves, now only having 2 before it ends up decreasing in that sort of compressing factor down from 4. However, they will move slower and collapse slower than before. Of course, strongholds is another big thing here that was adjusted. Strongholds now no longer having active AI. The black site will still have that, but these are more so going to be just now regular hotspots for landing and loot drops. So do with that what you will. We have the new Vengeance icon, the dynamic resurgence feature in all resurgence modes. We're finally going to end up seeing the scoreboard in the Gulag, which is phenomenal. Don't know why that was something that took 4 seasons to end up doing, but I'm happy that it's back. And then finally, a number of different bug fixes as well. Of course, in DMZ, to round out everything, we can, of course, just breeze past this. We've already talked about a lot of it. The weapons locker, including your insured weapon slots, insured cooldown weapon time, and contraband weapon stashes. That's something that is part of your FOB, or that forward operating base. The stash with the wallet capacity, and the ability to unlock it in general, as well as your keys and contraband stashes, that's available there. The bounty board for personal exfils, barter recipes, and buy station discounts is there. The communication station for urgent mission access, that's all there as well. We have the new DMZ faction of the Phalanx. We end up having new mission objectives, and then the seasonal reset surprisingly isn't as in depth, I guess you could say, for resetting everything as we thought, because yes, your key and mission items are resetting, your faction missions are resetting, your insured weapon slots are resetting, but your active duty slots are not resetting, so your characters you ended up building up, and those contraband weapon inventories are no longer resetting as well. So definitely cool to see that we're not seeing a complete wipe of everything, and that you can keep some of what you work towards. Now, the final stuff that I want to touch on here are just some general adjustments for DMZ, where enemy combatants killed with a suppressed weapon will now take longer to call in reinforcements. Definitely nice here so that it doesn't alert the entire horde of AI that may be coming after you. And then the stealth vest got a massive buff here with this, where this now protects against advanced UAV effects, and players can no longer be revealed by players with a comms vest. So 2 extra added levels of protection there, plus players using the stealth vest will no longer trigger a call out for enemy players with a comms vest as well. So you are very much so stealth in that stealth vest. Lives up to the name perfectly, so that's a big adjustment here with that, and might actually be one of the best vests, if not the best vest now at this point to have in DMZ. Beyond that, bug fixes, and that's about it for Season 4 and the update here at hand. So a lot of stuff fundamentally beyond what we've already talked about new weapons, maps, modes, all that kind of stuff. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of this update? Feel free to drop your thoughts down below. Before we wrap everything up, make sure to check out my friends over at G Fuel. Again, code Espresso gets you 20% off your entire order. But for the month of June, things like starter kits, which if you haven't tried G Fuel before, is a phenomenal chance to do so. Discounted now to 30% off. Tubs of hype sauce, hibiscus tea, MS melon, and others are also 30% off, as well as other items. So if you guys want to check the link in the description below to either try it out for the first time, grab a restock, whatever the case, links in the description below, and make sure you use code Espresso for 20 to 30% off your entire order. But that again is where we're going to call it. Drop your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone, and anything Season 4 related, as well as gearing up for some X-Defiant content next week. I'd love to have in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Modest Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.